fun day, everybody, and welcome back to the Couchside Judges. I'm Scott Fontana. Follow me on Twitter, Scott_Fontana.
And I'm Dan Urban. Follow me at the Dan Urban. Follow the podcast at Couchside Judges, and subscribe to us wherever you listen.
And you really should go check out our new YouTube channel, which is not so new, but now we're promoting it, and subscribe.
Please. And as always, make sure you read the scoring criteria, because we talk judging and MMA.
That we do. We do a little bit of that. Let's not do that today. Let's just talk about something else. Let's talk about like the Supreme Court judging.
Well,
no, stop, no, all
right,
no,
all right.
no. We're gonna lay off that one. It's way too complicated. But yeah, I should point out though, I highlighted again our YouTube channel, which is I'm now doing instead of telling everybody to give 5-star reviews. We're done with that. You're not gonna do it anyway. Whatever.
Like and subscribe.
Like and subscribe.
That's
whatever.
the new thing.
Like and subscribe. But also, we should point out that Podbean kind of let us down, our hosting service, in not putting up our YouTube edition properly last week in the appropriate time.
Well, yeah. So it auto generates the video and then it auto publishes to YouTube, and it didn't do either. And then it did.
You can see how that'd be a problem.
And then after I got into contact with support, magically the video was there in 15 minutes. So something must have happened. Hopefully it doesn't happen again today.
Mice chewing through the wires.
So I guess, yeah, it must have been.
That is my assumption. I think that's probably how all the ills of the world come about.
Usually.
Everything. Mice chewing through wires. Through human history. Back way before there were wires. That's what was happening. Anyway, busy fight weekend.
Yeah.
We had PFL, we had UFC. This is the last time we'll have PFL for at least a month or two. Probably like 6 weeks or so. And so we will actually have it even more busy next weekend. But
next week
it'll start to calm down a little more soon. The main focus, of course, is the UFC. It was actually a pretty solidly built card, a very long one, too. A very 14 fights.
And they were heavy, quick-paced, I should say. They were heavy on the, let's just get next fight out.
You're not wrong.
Felt like so.
But it also felt like this card just lasted like an eternity, just because it did, like because there were 14
You know
fights.
what? I wanted to say a main card that starts at 8:30 and it was a 10:45. I'm like, this is running long, right?
Yeah.
Why is it so long? We started at 8:30.
Well, it ended almost midnight, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a long time. But when you got every other fighter is either retiring or fake retiring, it was kind of hard to,
yeah.
There was a little bit of slowdown, I guess, but whatever. We do want to highlight a couple of big, let's call them bigger or more interesting things coming out of the weekend. Most importantly, Max Holloway getting the win over Arnold Allen in the main event. This is the fight everyone's been looking forward to for a little while. This is one of those fight night main events that you don't want to miss. There's some of them coming up in the next couple of weeks where maybe you can miss, but this wasn't one of them. And I think it was a solid fight. I don't think it was, fight of the year type of thing, but Max Holloway looked solid, goes out there, gets the job done, kind of in an atypical way against Arnold Allen.
Yeah, he had to fight a little different style than he's used to, it seemed like. And
I think he adjusted well. It wasn't the type of performance that sets it on fire. And I think I saw at least several, I don't know how many I saw, but I saw some people on social media, let's say, starting to be like, well, I don't know, maybe we're not seeing the same Max Holloway anymore. And maybe you're not, because the guy's been fighting forever and he's absorbed like 3,000 hits, or he's given out 3,000.
He's landed 3,000, but absorbed 1,500.
Yeah. He takes a bunch. But I mean, he's not. He took some good shots from Arnold Allen and kind of just rolled with them. He did okay in there. I think he probably silenced a few concerns about how does he take, heavy strikes, that kind of thing, after all the punishment he has absorbed. So I thought it was a good performance. He comes out for another win. He is no closer to getting a title shot unless Yair Rodriguez ends up getting the job done against Alexander Volkanovski when they fight. So nothing really changes there.
And that would be interesting.
Yeah, it would be. It would.
Because he's already beaten Yair.
I think you'd have to put. It gets weird though, because do you just be like, well, Volkanovski doesn't get another shot? He's been the champ for a long time. I don't know. Let's save that for another day, right? The question I would have for you is, because he made this, I don't know if it was a call out. I think it was more of a suggestion of like, man, haven't we done this? How have we not had this fight before? Maybe we should. Do we give him Korean Zombie to just feast upon? Because let's face it, I don't think that's a good matchup. At least I don't.
I thought he retired.
No,
So
No, he didn't. I
Well.
think he's got one more fight in him is what the goal was. I think they were trying to have him fight. He was supposed to fight, if I'm not mistaken, in South Korea on that card that ended up getting moved and stayed at super late time, which you absolutely hated. I believe that was supposed to be a Korean zombie fight. And when it fell through, because
that's possible.
As I understand it, based on the reporting of John Hanko over in South Korea, a good reporter for this is called the All-Star. What's the name of the
something with the morning show? South Korean morning show, something like that.
So, South China Morning News, but I believe he's on something. He works for something else as well. But nonetheless, he, if I'm not mistaken, was reporting that it was kind of the idea of like, well, without him, there's not really a draw at the box office, so they kind of had to like pull the plug. I don't know if that was his read or if that was like a report or what, but I could swear it came from JHK. Shout out to JHK.
So let's start the event at 1 a.m.
I'm not gonna rehash that one. But yeah, I guess the question is, do we give Max Holloway what he kind of was, I don't know if he was asking for, but sort of suggesting, or do you have a better alternative, sir?
Well, it makes me nervous. We saw Max Holloway put a hellacious beating on Calvin Kattar. We saw him do it to Brian Ortega.
Mm-hmm.
We just saw Volkanovski destroy Chan Sung Jung. I think Max would do the same or worse.
Yeah, I'd be very worried about that. I don't like that matchup at all. But what's your alternative? What does Max Holloway get next? Because I have an idea, but I'll see if you have anything first. I'll defer.
Maybe. No, because that don't make sense because he's coming off a loss.
I tell you what, why don't I give my suggestion? Because I think you're actually going to see the logic here.
Go ahead.
Edson Barboza.
That would be fun.
Coming off of a win right here. Yeah. Looked really good. Got a nice finish of Billy Quarantillo.
And I think that's a matchup where the numbers aren't really going to matter because Max is like not getting a title shot regardless.
There's no, yeah, it really doesn't. Like he's going to have to fight down in the rankings like several spots anyway. Mm-hmm. You know, if you go down and you skip to the next guy who he has not faced, I believe in the rankings as of, Sunday night, I believe it is Josh Emmett.
Yeah, Josh
and
Emmett.
I don't know that we need that fight next because Emmett's coming off a loss anyway, and I think it'd be more interesting to put Holloway against another fascinating striker in Edson Barboza.
That would be fun,
right?
Because the book on Edson is pressure him,
sure,
which Max does better than anybody.
Sure, and
so
absolutely,
that could be interesting.
Absolutely, it kind of would shape up to be. Let's face it, there's not a whole lot of people Max Holloway is going to enter the cage at, especially at 45, and you're not going to expect him to win. This fight against Allen, at least, I think was interesting for a lot of people. But I was, people would ask me, hey, what do you think? And, I'd say, listen, I think Allen's dangerous, but it's hard for me to pick against Max Holloway at this point, unless he's fighting Alexander Volkanovski.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't have a problem with that. I don't think it's going to be any different. I think just make a matchup. This is Barboza. He's been around a long time. It's a fight that people would have fun with, and I like that one, so I'm going to put that out there.
Yeah, someone tell Sean Shelby, or does he do the 45, or does McMahon do 45?
Well, it certainly looks like it's Ant Evans who actually does
Ant
that.
Evans.
No. He doesn't actually, but Ant Evans is like the anti flyweight guy out there, and it certainly looks like he's the one booking it because segue. What is the deal with putting Brandon Royval and Mateus Nicolau on not just the prelims, but it wasn't even the featured prelim. It was just
just got buried.
It just got buried in the middle on the prelims. And it was a fight that I think not only was everybody looking forward to, but I think everyone kind of knew this fight had championship picture implications.
Co-main.
This is a co-main. Shoot, you could put this atop a fight night card and it's probably going to be better than half the ones that they tend to put out there anyway. I have no idea what it was doing there.
And at least they owned up to it.
Dana said we effed up, but what I don't understand is, okay, you're saying that now, but we all knew that before too. If you're Dana White, can't you just be move that up?
Yeah, you have to move.
At what point does he just start intervening and be like, why is this here? Move this up.
If this was a pay-per-view, there's no way that wouldn't be on the pay-per-view portion. Unless you're trying to get people to buy it.
No, I can see that being the featured prelim.
Or a featured
But
prelim,
again, this wasn't even the featured prelim of a fight night card. It was weird. It was bizarre. It made no sense. And it ended up being fireworks like we all expected. Brandon Royval got the win.
I will say this. Leave it to Mateus Nicolau to keep a Brandon Royval fight kind of slow.
But at least he got the job done. I mean, you can't contain Brandon Royval.
You can't contain
I think he had the one fight where it went the distance, and it wasn't like the most entertaining of fights, but like it's also on a Brandon Royval scale, which is like, almost on like a reverse curve, where it's like everything is supposed to be awesome, or it's basically not curved. You know what I mean?
Just go crazy.
Yeah. But I don't know if you got to see this. I kind of leave the post-fight show on sometimes when this event's over, because I just don't change the channel. And so the ESPN Plus post-fight show comes on. So they'll show like behind the stage, behind the scenes, I guess, interviews of athletes afterward. And they talked to Brandon Royval. It was Heidi Androl doing the interviews. They talked to her, or him. She talked to him. And he was talking about how he was really campaigning to get off the prelims. He really tried hard to get on the main card. And the reason was, did you hear this? Did you hear what he
I
said?
heard? Yeah.
You saw what I said, probably. And I don't know if anybody else saw this, but it was that Brandon Royval has brothers who are incarcerated, and in the facilities in which they are housed, they, I guess, don't have access to ESPN Plus. They have access to ESPN. If he's on main ESPN channel, they can watch his fights, and if he's not, then they can't. So there's a more tragic element to this too. It's not like they should be booking his fights on there all the time because of that situation, but also it made all the sense in the world to do it anyway. So when you hear that this was something that happened as a result of it, it's more than just like, it doesn't matter if they put it there. It's okay. Who cares about card placement? It's like, well, it definitely matters to this man for like a very real and human reason. So
yeah, card placement matters because people don't even show up to the arena until the main card.
I think they did all right in Kansas City. I will give them this much, because at some point I tweeted out during the broadcast, Missouri doesn't need another card for a while, which was prompted by the fact that they were booing that fight between Chris Gutierrez and Pedro Munoz, which I thought was a perfectly fine technical fight.
I do not mind people booing fights. It's an entertainment product. I don't care. If you don't like it and you're booing it, that's fine. I didn't like the flashlights on the phones waving.
Not a fan of that.
It could be distracting.
Oh, that happens all the time, dude. That's not even
really.
Oh,
I'd never seen it before.
No, dude, it's very, very, very like common now
in boring fights that they don't like.
Yeah,
that's what they do.
Mm-hmm.
I better than never noticed
the Woo seems to have died. Should I have even said that?
Woo never die. I will woo till kingdom come.
I'm glad you can't afford to go to these UFCs now.
Well, that was mean.
I apologize. That was a little too far.
Can't wait to woo in Newark.
You're gonna show out now for tickets.
I hope I'm close enough to Media Row. I will woo all night.
I forgot you did get tickets. I'm glad.
I don't know where I'm sitting now, so we'll find out. Fight night.
If I hear one woo, I don't care if it's you or not. I'm blaming you.
I'm gonna get it going.
All right, but I mean that was enough for the UFC. Otherwise, it is stupid. Put Royval on the card. At least he got his bonus, because at some point, I think it was when Barboza got the finish with the knee.
Yep.
He's like, "Well, there goes my bonus," and then the UFC ended up extra bonuses this time. So Royval did still get one. I was
they
like,
did extra bonuses.
Did you see? I did your hashtag, by the way.
No, did you?
Bonus for Royval.
Okay,
yeah,
no, I didn't see it. But I saw it when I did it.
There's literally one person on the internet who actually understands that. It's you. Because you're the one who started it, and you missed it.
But I put it out too.
Did you?
Yeah.
No, you didn't see mine. You got to
promote.
You got to interact with it. That's how the algorithm works. You got to interact with it to make it get out there.
I don't know how these algorithms work.
I don't know. They're all made to get Elon friends. But anyway, PFL, because there was PFL as well Friday night, like we talked about. Now, I know you didn't watch much more than kind of the requisite for this show. But they had the lightweight and the welterweight divisions out there to finish out the first leg of the season. I look at the lightweight division of PFL as the most interesting of the six. And I don't think it's particularly close. I think they have some really interesting talents there. Having said that, all the fights went to a decision. So in the PFL, if you win a decision, you get 3 points. If you lose, you get 0. So nobody has more than 3 points. Usually you'd get 4 or 5 or 6 if somebody had a finish in rounds 3, 2, or 1 respectively. But that did not happen here. Everybody's still in it, including the new signee Shane Burgos, who did not win his fight against Olivier Aubin-Mercier. In I guess they're calling this the main card internally, but it's called the opening card if you go on ESPN Plus. and then they had a sort of post-limbs, which is called on ESPN Plus the main card.
Yeah.
It was a very weird structure, and like they weren't clear about it. It just kind of happened. We all had to figure it out on our own. It was very weird, but I mean, I guess that's kind of
common theme.
Yeah. The question, though, I would have had for you, and I guess you don't really have a good answer, but who is the favorite in PFL's lightweight division? I'll ask you anyway, but
Olivier Aubin-Mercier.
Okay. Well, I mean, it makes sense. He's the reigning champion. I think he's probably the most accomplished of all of them, even outside of that.
Although I'm a fan of Nathan Schultz. So
Okay. I was going to say, my pick for this year, if I was to make a pick and stick with it, especially based on what we've seen so far, is I think Clay Collard is the guy to beat. I think he's been in the mix for a few years now. Realistically, probably should have gotten into the playoffs last year, and the scorecards did not go his way in a very disappointing way last year. But I like his chances this year. I think he can do it. He's got really good hands. I think he can get it done. And he's fun to watch. He's always fun to watch, too. Right. Real quick questions before we get into the judging here. Yes or no's? We're going to fly through these, hopefully. Should Dana White be mad at Clay Guida for faking a retirement announcement?
I can see someone being annoyed. I don't
Say yes or no.
I don't know if he'd be mad.
You're on the stand, sir. Yes or no?
I'd lean yeah.
All right. Can Jillian Robertson become a title contender at 115 pounds?
I think so, for sure.
Does Daniel Zellhuber excite you as a prospect?
He was pretty cool. Yeah.
You managed to answer all three of these questions without saying just yes or no. I'm impressed.
What are you going to do?
This was not a lightning round that went well. Disappointed. Anyway, I guess I should answer them too. Should Dana have been mad? No. Can Jillian Robertson become a contender at 115? Yes. Does Daniel Zellhuber excite you as a prospect? Yes.
Okay. Cool.
Easy. See?
Yeah, but they're more open-ended than yes or no.
Whatever. Anyway, there were 28 rounds scored among the 14 fights at UFC over the weekend. 21 of them ended up being unanimous, so 75%. Nice solid percentage there. 2 of them were 8-9 splits. PFL 3, the swan song in Las Vegas, at least for this season, it would seem, it had a really impressive number. 20 out of 22, or 90.1%.
Yeah, that's solid.
Unanimous. I think that speaks to 2 things. One being that the judges in Nevada that work Nevada and travel to Nevada are top notch. And number 2, these fights weren't well matched. Or they didn't work out as well as we thought they would too in some cases. I think we thought some of these would be closer, but then I don't know. I looked at some of the bettors out there that show up in my timeline, and it seemed like they were just rolling it all night. I'm like, okay, I guess maybe this is more predictable than maybe thought. But anyway, and there was one 8-9 split in that one as well. So when you really get down to it, out of 50 rounds, 50 out of these 2 events, there were 41 unanimous rounds, and only 3 out of the 9 were 8-9 splits. So it's only 6 times they couldn't agree on the winner of the round. Not too shabby on the whole.
Pretty good.
Now that's just numbers. Numbers are one thing. They can say something really good. They can say something bad. You have to kind of dive into it like we always do, right? In like contested rounds. Yeah. But not only that, we're going to lead with, in an orthodox way for us, we're going to lead with one of the rounds that had, it was all agreement. It was a unanimous round. We don't do this a lot. We don't like to do this because we tend to, as you said on Twitter, my friend, you said that we tend to defer to the judges. This fight in particular, we wanted to dive a little deeper because it's one that a lot of people were talking about, number one. And number 2, it featured 3 judges who we never talk about on this show. They don't have the same level of, let's say, credibility or trust with at least you and me. That's not to say they're not trustworthy in and of themselves. We're just less familiar with them. So let's dive in to Joselyne Edwards and Lucie Pudilova, which ended up being a split decision, 29-28 all around. We only had 1 split round, but again, we're actually going to dive into round 1, which was a unanimous round. What happened in this round?
So it was unanimous for Edwards, right?
Yes, unanimous for Edwards, to be clear. Thank you.
They come out and they just start firing a bunch of punches at each other. I don't think anyone actually landed. Maybe one got through for Edwards.
They were pulling the trigger, but nothing landed.
I think maybe one got through for Edwards. She lands a leg kick, and then they clinch off a failed takedown from Pudilova, and she eats a knee to the gut. But then Pudilova times a punch from Edwards, perfectly timed takedown right into half guard. She lands some punches from here. She's on top for a while, landing intermittent shots. A couple got through nicely, like hammer fist style, kind of. Maybe an elbow. Pudilova stands up. She eats an up kick. And then Pudilova goes back down at the half guard, passes to side, tries to quickly mount, but gets bucked off. And Edwards has her against the fence in like this dogfight position, and she throws a bunch of strikes. I don't really think many landed here cleanly or at all. I'm not really sure. Didn't look like they landed too great here. They separate, and Pudilova goes on the attack, clinches Edwards against the cage. I think it's closer than the world thinks, but I also think it's kind of clear for Pudilova. Maybe we're missing something cage side that they saw more clearly, but from what I saw, I think this is a 10-9 Pudilova round.
This feels like a philosophical thing for me. Like, it feels like it's really more of a, how much weight are you supposed to give to the grappling that Pudilova does, which, let's face it, what is she accomplishing?
See, I thought she landed some punches there.
I don't think she's landing a whole lot there, man. I really don't.
She landed some decent hammer fists there. And a good left, and I think she has an elbow also.
I don't know. I'll take the spoiler out of it. I actually still gave the round Pudilova, but man, I just don't know how much she's landing down there. I mean, like you're identifying a couple things she did, sure. Mm-hmm. And she does have the time on top, and some of it is in semi-dominant positions, right? It's not just sitting in guard, but I don't know, she's not really getting to anything that's threatening to finish the fight, not in any meaningful way. Mm. And I would say anytime they weren't just on the mat, you probably give the advantage to Edwards, no?
Yeah, I would think so.
So,
but also Edwards, what was she actually doing?
I don't know. I mean, I think she lands more than Pudilova does. So if you just want to go with the strikes landed, the damage and that kind of thing, I don't think anyone gets any high damage whatsoever. It's not like that.
Damage isn't there.
No. I mean, we're not even talking about an 8, of course, but there's not a whole lot of effect, I think, from either one of them. But I would say it did seem like there's just a slight advantage of the effectiveness of the strikes that are coming from Edwards. But I mean, that top time, and not just in like a guard situation, I don't know. What are you supposed to do with that? The criteria says like what are you doing effectively in the grappling, right? But how effective is what she does, which is not, again, just not sitting in guard. She moves to at least a bit better of a position, right?
See, I thought the strikes she landed here were the best strikes.
I would disagree with that.
When it's on the feet, I don't think Edwards lands much.
I think she lands some in the clinch. When they're kind of getting back up. I think that's where, like, that's what I'm saying. Like, anytime they're not just on the mat.
Early in the round, she landed a good leg kick and a knee to the gut.
Yeah, I don't even give much credit to that. It's not that much. Mm-hmm.
The up kick. Maybe they put some decent weight into that up kick.
Yeah. Again, I did end up on the same page here as you. I do give it to Pudilova. I do not feel like all that strongly to this one. And, when I heard everybody kind of getting up in arms about it, obviously the commentary team kind of saw the sitting on top of this situation.
Well, they swayed that opinion.
They did very heavily. And unfortunately, we had one of the least familiar criteria teams on 3-man broadcast on this one in DC. Michael Bisping, I think, is probably middle of the pack at the very least of the group in terms of his understanding of the criteria, especially when it comes to 8-9s. I think he gets that a little better. Mm. And then Brendan Fitzgerald, who, no disrespect, is not at the same understanding or ability to explain it as John Anik.
I think he was absent or daydreaming during their the officials meeting thing that they talk about, or he wasn't invited because the man hears control, and that's all he scores.
He's he does harp on control a lot more than really needs to be, and that is something that I would like to see change. I would hope maybe that can get through a little better, but so far we've not seen the results there. So yeah, there was obviously a narrative that was put out there that obviously that Pudilova won the first 2 rounds, and she obviously won the first round. There's no way like the judges could mess this up or something like that. I don't know that they messed this up. This doesn't feel like a robbery because this is the round that like realistically everybody just took for granted as happening, right?
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't feel like something was done wrong here to me. But I do feel like it highlights an issue with the criteria that there's still room to better elaborate upon what you do with grappling.
Scott,
and
don't
how
you know
score it.
there's nothing wrong with the criteria?
We're not going down that road. There's plenty wrong with the criteria. We could do a whole show on what I would change the criteria. One day we're going to. Because the document needs a lot of work. It does. It may be in the wording, it may be in the clarification, but there's other areas where it could certainly just use some enhancements and some actual adjustments and that kind of thing. But yeah, I think really it just, the words themselves are not clear enough. There's a whole lot of, if you talk to judges, you'll actually learn what you're supposed to do. If you go to the ABC, you'll learn what you're supposed to do. A lot of stuff that we learn in conversations with judges and in the training that you and I both went to and passed at ABC last year, a lot of it can just be codified. It really can. You don't need to have that be a conversation you have to further elaborate upon it. You can get the words in and you don't even have to make it a book. It'll still be 3.5 to 4 pages. You can get it there. There is a lot of room to fix that document. And I think it leaves a lot of officials vulnerable, and I don't think it needs to. And I would like to see them change that. But to get back to this round in particular, I'm with you. I gave it to Pudilova, but this doesn't bother me. It doesn't. It just doesn't.
Well, you know why it bothers me?
Okay, why?
Because I looked at this round and I had a sneaking suspicion I was going to have to rewatch this round in a fight that I really don't care about.
Is it because Joselyne Edwards was in the fight and she's almost always in a split decision?
And I didn't care about the fight really. It was a fight. I watched it. Didn't want to watch it again. And I just had that sneaking suspicion round one was going to cause some issues. And it did.
This is just a feeling, you didn't know?
But on the whole, I mean, I had no skin in the game. I had whatever. I thought it was closer than the world did.
Okay.
And the narrative that the commentary put out there, I think, exaggerated things.
It did. I should probably, now I'm pulling up Joselyne Edwards' record, and I'm looking. And she is not in a split decision every time. She's in a decision every time. And the last 2 now have been split decisions. So
okay.
I'm colored by the recent past, which it doesn't feel like it's been 9 months since she fought, but apparently it had been. I feel like we were just doing one of these like 2 months ago, but maybe it's just because these bleed together so well.
Yeah, possibly.
We do these every week,
yeah.
And certain names we hear. And I'm just kind of conditioned when I see Joselyne Edwards on the card. I'm like, we'll probably be talking about that fight. I don't know how many rounds, but probably. Now, of course, we weren't expecting to talk about a unanimous round. We do have, and I should point out, because you and I, before we move on to the next round, because you and I did go against the grain, and all 3 judges on this one, Ross Swanberg, Henry Gary, I'm going to guess on the pronunciation, and David Hoyet, they all had Edwards here. We both had Pudilova. That is not a couch side override. Dan and I are 2 people. Those are 3 people. So based on math, we were overridden. That's just how math works. I'm sorry, guys. If you need more math lessons, my children are really good with math, especially this type of math, so they can help you. But yeah, so not a couch side override. Just the way it is. Deal with it. Who would get it? Who would we mail this to? Ourselves?
Sure.
Come on. What's the point of mailing it to ourselves? We only mail things to people all over the world.
That's true.
Outside of these 4 walls where we were to do the recording. But anyway, let's move on to the next round, the actual split round of this fight, the deciding round, the real deciding round, I should say. Round 3. So what's happening here?
Yeah, I thought Edwards was doing good work early, landing leg kicks, and Pudilova was doing a lot of missing. Seems Edwards is landing and kind of pulling away a little bit in this round. Her leg kicks are good. Punches to the face. Second half of the round is a different story. Pudilova was able to start finding a home for these punches that she's been missing. And her aggressiveness is helping her, close that gap and start getting some good lands in there. I thought Edwards had a lead early and just didn't relinquish it, even though Pudilova started to close that gap. Close round, but I'm on 10-9 Edwards.
Yeah, I'm on 10-9 Edwards. I think she had asserted herself over the course of 15 minutes as the better striker.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it showed in this round, which was largely striking. And, it's not like it was a blowout of a round. It certainly wasn't. I think you can make a case probably for Pudilova, but I felt good about Edwards in this round. So yeah, that's an Edwards round for you and me. We sided with judges Swanberg and Hoyet. It was Judge Geary who ended up giving this round to Pudilova and ended up being the hero of all the people who felt wronged by the way the decision went.
Yeah.
But then everybody forgot about it because it happened hours and hours and hours ago. Everyone just needed something to talk about for the first couple fights. That's the crazy thing about it. Is like sometimes, we'll sit there, you and I, this is a little bit of, behind the show type of talk, I guess, right? We'll think, okay, what's the fight that's going to kind of drive our show for the week? What's the conversation piece? And this obviously was going to be the conversation piece. And everybody went crazy on it. They went ballistic. So it was like, okay, we have to put it somewhere. Unless, something happened much later that was of equal or worse, then yeah, that's where it supplants it. But something like this, like if it happens in the first fight of the night and there's 14 fights, you can almost guarantee no one's going to care anymore.
Oh, yeah.
Because realistically, and I don't mean to be disrespectful to Joselyne Edwards or Lucie Pudilova, but there's just not a whole lot of people who really are truly invested in the way that fight was scored who didn't have money in the game.
It was all about the money.
It's all about the money. And once you get past
I saw some people happy about it that kept their parlays alive.
Yeah, adorable. Look, if I'm gonna give some unsolicited betting advice to anybody. If you see Joselyne Edwards' name on a card, just bet the distance. Do over 2.5 rounds. Whatever. Don't bet the result. You're asking for trouble. Don't do it.
Fair.
I feel like that's some good betting advice. Am I wrong?
Probably right. Yeah.
Or just ignore the fight.
Yeah.
You could do that too. It's a totally viable option. You actually don't have to bet. Anyway, let's move on. I'm done talking about that fight. Everyone else is done listening to it. Let's move on. We got Jillian Robertson, who got the win over Piera Rodriguez, second round submission via armbar. Now, before we even get into the split round here, which is round 1 in a fight that didn't even go past round 2, there's a little bit of, an interesting finish here with this armbar, right? You want to go into it a little bit to set the table real quick? You don't have to go deep, but,
She does the armbar, and then Piera raises her hand like she's going to tap, and then she goes one tap, and then goes back to defending or trying to defend. And then Keith Peterson's like, whoa. You tapped. It's over.
That's a tap.
We're done.
Mm-hmm.
Then when they announced it was a verbal tap. So the one time we're not in the apex where we can't hear what's going on inside, we don't know what happened. But I mean, I don't think it's as audible as Joe Warren was when he got caught in a knee bar and just started screaming and then argued that he didn't tap, even though crying out is a tap.
Absolutely
you
a tap. Yeah,
like
that counts.
Grunting to push your way through the pain means it's over. We don't know what happened, but it was announced as a verbal tap. She must have made some kind of noise.
The idea is mind your noises. Be quiet. Just be quiet. But yeah, that was obviously, that's a tap. I'm sorry.
And she had to tap too. Even if there wasn't no verbal, she tapped.
Yeah.
It's a tap.
And
her arm would have been snapped.
Oh yeah, this prevented, and that's not what Keith Peterson necessarily is supposed to be doing. These are professionals. Like you don't stop them from themselves like you would in an amateur fight. I'll repeat that, like you would in an amateur fight to prevent a broken arm.
Yeah,
just a reference to a previous fight from a while back. I don't have any issue with this at all. We knew what was going to happen, and it actually transpired the way it was supposed to. It's fine. It was an unorthodox way to do it, but also it's kind of like almost like out of the book of Chael Sonnen.
Yeah.
Yeah. But we want to go more into the split round here, because I think there's some interesting conversation to be had, at least about this round, which is round 1, which again didn't matter into the result, but nonetheless, let's talk about it.
Yeah, on the feet, Rodriguez is definitely winning, but not by a big margin. She takes it to the ground, and from here, Robertson lands a nice elbow that immediately swells up and cuts Rodriguez on her forehead. Not a bad cut. Not a lot of blood, but a good shot from the bottom, and then
liable damage.
Then she sweeps her. Robertson doesn't land many shots up here, but there's a good elbow that she does land, and a couple good punches similar to Lesnar Mir 2, like 3 or 4 of those, where he's got the arm trap thing and he's doing like uppercuts from underneath, like 3 or 4 of those. I think the more effective fighter in this round was Robertson. Maybe Chris Lee didn't see the elbow from Robertson on the bottom, which in my opinion is a major point of the round, and I think it sways things. So that's why I'm on Robertson 10-9.
I guess I can see what you're saying, but this doesn't feel like the right score to give for this round. I don't think this really... I think this round has a clear winner. I'm going to start with that. I think this round is a clear winner. I think this round is Jillian Robertson's round. And it's one of those things that, like, again, kind of reinforces what I was talking about earlier about the fact that grappling doesn't seem to be, I don't know if it's necessarily being discounted. Like, there's conspiracy theorists out there that are like, oh, that judge hates grappling. I don't buy that. That's stupid.
I bet there was a ref that worked the other night that hates grappling.
Well, there's probably that, but that's
we'll get into that.
That's definitely a throwback to the, let's say, early days of the post spike, explosion of but yeah, this feels like a round that's really supposed to be for Robertson, because I think her grappling, even on itself, is probably enough to tilt the scale just a little bit.
Okay.
But it's more than that. It is more than that. It's the elbow. And I mean, it's not just that if you missed like what happened with that, right? There's some good shots being landed there, and I would argue some of these shots are even better than what's being landed on the feet.
Okay.
I don't think it's that hard to call this one. That's my opinion. That's my 2 cents on this.
When I watched it, I totally didn't expect to talk about that round.
Yeah,
I
think that's another. Okay. A lot of people were very surprised in that too, and this is a round I'm actually much more like, come on, guys. Like, as far as the judging, like, this needs to actually be on the same page here. The other round, I get it. We went over that. I don't have to elaborate anymore. I get it. This is the round that I think really should be on the same page here. So, you and I went with the majority here, which was for Robertson. Judges Brian Pucillo and Ross Swanberg, once again, they saw it the same way as us. It was Chris Lee, one of the few traveling judges, was brought in. And Brian Pucillo qualifies as a traveling judge. He works like kind of in the Midwest more. He doesn't really travel outside the Midwest, but he works in several states. He's a very veteran judge who we don't talk about very often because they haven't traveled a whole lot the last few years. But I bet you as they kind of make their way into the heartland more frequently, we're going to hear his name more often. Chicago especially, I believe he goes to. But nonetheless, yeah, it was Chris Lee who saw this one for Rodriguez. And look, just because I disagree with Chris Lee here doesn't mean he's a bad judge. He's a good judge. But I will say this, of all the judges who work a ton of rounds, and he's one of the very few, he seems to turn in way more of the rounds where I'm just like, no, than any other judge. And I don't know why that is. I don't know if that's me or if that's him or what, but of all the judges, I mean, again, the Sal D'Amatos, the Derek Clearys, the Mike Bells, the Eric Colognes, all the ones who work like the absolute most rounds. Chris Lee is definitely the one we most often are saying like, mm-mm.
Okay.
So we got to add this one to the list, by the way.
Oh, you want to add this one to the list?
This has to be on the list. Absolutely.
Okay. I didn't think it was that crazy.
No, I do.
Oh, okay.
I do. I want it on the list.
Right.
But really, the list means we're going to go back to it later.
Right.
And
yeah.
we're going to, at the end of the year, we could go over and kind of like rank them as far as like, okay, what rounds do we disagree with and why? And then we can hopefully revisit the ideas behind them and that kind of thing. So,
all right.
Yeah. Again, Chris Lee, good judge. I don't like the score.
All right.
And that's all I have to say about that. That was a bad accent. But Forrest Gump's a good movie.
It is a good movie.
Really good. Also, the theme from Forrest Gump, do you remember the music in your head at all? Like the music that's playing
kind
when
of,
the feathers moving and everything like that?
Yeah.
My son really likes like peaceful, like symphonic music.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've been looking for like songs I can play for him that are kind of in that vein. And I put that one on the other day when we were working on Lego. He's like, oh, I like this one. It was so pleasant. We should just
maybe he's gonna score movies.
How about we license that and we play it in the background of these rounds?
Okay.
That's a lot of money. We're not going to do it.
Fine.
Yeah. But I want to. I just want to. That's all. Anyway, we're moving on. Max Holloway. We're going back to the main event here. Max Holloway, Arnold Allen, unanimous decision, 49-46 twice, and a 48-47. Round 2 is our split here. So let's talk about it.
Yeah, very close round. Allen came out much more aggressive than he was in the first round. Kept Max fighting off his back foot, and that's not what we're used to seeing, as we mentioned earlier. Normally it's Holloway pushing the pace. This round, Max invested in the body, landed some good ones upstairs too. I thought Allen's left hand and shots upstairs were the difference. He had 3 that snapped Max's head around. In terms of immediate impact, I favor Allen, but it's very close. Max had the heavy body kick. I think Allen's output dropped as the round went on. All of Allen's best offense happened early in the round, probably the first 2 minutes. So that allowed Max to close the gap. I still think Allen edges at 10-9.
Yeah, Allen letting Holloway back into it was not a good idea because obviously, you never want to do that with Max Holloway anyway. But yeah, I thought he had built a pretty solid lead early.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like a crazy one, but man, he's landing some good shots on Max Holloway that we just don't see get through with his hands typically. And it was sort of making you think, hey, maybe something could be in the works here. And then even by the end of the round, we're just like, well, I don't know about that now, but we'll see. But yeah, I still feel like ultimately Allen had built up enough of a lead that as much as Max made it close, I don't think he quite took it back. So I felt good with Allen here. I mean, you want to be giving more weight to the more effective strikes. And I think that the more effective strikes, in the very literal definition of that, are coming from Allen here.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's enough of them, too. It's not, sometimes we have it where it's like, okay, he's landing the most effective strikes, but he's just not landing enough. He had that happen here and there. We've seen it in plenty of fights, but I don't think so here. I think he's got the volume, and I think he's got the effectiveness. I think I'm okay here.
Yeah.
So you and I actually agreed with, it was the local judge who was on this fight, this main event. Kind of a curious choice to put him with Chris Lee and Sal D'Amato, the two let's say global traveling judges, especially. But yeah, I think we're both on the same page as Travis Busking instead of Lee and D'Amato. So what does that mean for Travis Busking?
Couchside override.
We're gonna send that one out to the Midwest.
Send it on out.
Mm-hmm. It's coming. Keep your eye out, Travis. Check the mailbox. But no, we can move on. That was the only round. Otherwise, we all knew who won. There was no suspense on that one. Moving on to Zach Cummings, his swan song against Ed Herman. It ended up being his swan song. Third round TKO win for Zach Cummings. There's a few of officiating things that we could get into on this one, but let's start actually with the contested round, which is round 2. And we're only talking about how bad a beating Zach Cummings put on Ed Herman in round 2, which he kind of was a little bit of a continuation of the first round.
Yeah, I mean, well, this whole fight, they threw leather. They were throwing heavy shots. Cummings snapping Herman's head around, lands a left that sits Herman down, and Herman pops right back up, but still definitely a knockdown.
It tends to do that.
There's a bit of a lull in this round as they clinch. They kind of just hang out against the cage, punching each other, kneeing each other. But when they separate, Cummings lands heavy, and the kicks to the legs knocks out Herman's leg completely, sends him back to the mat, gets back up. Later in the round, Cummings drops Herman bad. He was hurt. You could tell he was hurt. Cummings follows up to the ground, landing good elbows, solid ground and pound until he's kicked in the face. For a second time.
Just grazes the nose on this one. It wasn't that bad, but you're right. I mean, it's absolutely illegal.
Yeah.
No question.
This is the second time it's happened in the fight, so point is taken.
Justifiably. But it didn't damage that bad. Like, you wouldn't look at this and be like, are we going to give 2 points here? Absolutely not.
Toes to the nose.
Yeah, it was fine. You could tell Cummings was fine. He really was.
Yeah. They do restart on the feet, and Herman looks a bit wobbly every time he's getting punched.
Can I also point out that Herman, I believe he said out loud, like, I thought he was up.
Yeah. He goes, I thought he was standing.
Which to me says that he's kind of hurt here. Like, he's still hurt. He doesn't really know what's going on.
I do think we have damage. I think we have dominance. So I'm going a 10-8. With the point deduction, it becomes a 10-7.
Yeah, that was my logic too. I had the exact same thought. We do not have duration here. There's way too much kind of like, damage and then nothing and then damage and then nothing. But there's a clear outclassing of the striking from
even though Herman
Zach
is landing.
Cummings. He's landing.
Offense,
but he's not landing anything that's really making a difference in the fight. Cummings is the one who's bringing this to its natural conclusion much, much faster. And not just because of the damage, but it's because he's landing the better strikes. So I felt really good about this one being even a 2D 10-8. But I can see how it wouldn't go the other. This is almost like the definition of a 10-8.5 in a lot of ways.
I think you can go and say, did Herman earn his 9? Maybe.
He might.
Not really sure.
He might have.
So,
but that's why I'm kind of like, okay, 8.5 is good. So we ended up on the same page. Again, it's an 8, but it becomes a 7. And I'll tell everybody what happened when I called you last night. I'm looking back at the score sheets because I've had a super busy night. I really didn't get to watch a whole lot of this live. I had it on TV and I'm kind of following, but not able to follow as much as I would like. And I call you and I'm like, oh my God, Dan, you got to look at the scorecards. So I make you pull it up. I'm not even explaining it. You pull it up and you look and you see what I saw, which is that Judge Brian Pacillo gave Zach Cummings a 10-7. I'm like, oh my God. And then you reminded me it was the point deduction. I'm like, oh, I completely forgot. But the UFC scorecard that they posted didn't indicate that it was the 10-8 and then subtracted a point like they tend to do.
Yeah, they didn't write the graphic right.
Yeah, the graphic they use on there, probably a lot of people know this. The graphic is just basically a transcription of what the commissions use. So they have it as a little more uniform, and it looks a little easier for people to view online, which is good when done correctly. Here and there's little errors that, nerds like us spot, but that's pretty much it.
I was nervous when you told me to look at it. I was like, no way. Someone scored a round for Herman. That's what I was nervous about.
Yeah. No, but it was Brian Pucillo who gave the 8, which turned into a 7. It was Ross Swanberg once again, and Sal D'Amato once again, who gave it a 10-9 for Cummings, which again became the 8. So we didn't see it that way. We saw it the same way as Pucillo. What does this mean for Brian Pucillo?
Couchside override. Another one going out.
A lot of mail coming to the Midwest. But I want to back it up real quick, and we don't have to go deep into this one. But round 1, like we alluded to, there was the up kick, I guess, the illegal kick.
Mm-hmm.
When Ed Herman is down, lands it to, and he grazes Zach Cummings in the first round too.
Mm-hmm.
It probably was even less damaging than the first one.
It hit his chest first, and then it
kind of
grazed
slips
his
off.
face.
Yeah. So definitely not a big deal. They stop it. They end up standing the fight back up though. No point deduction. I don't believe that's protocol, right? I think they said on the broadcast that Mark Ratner said no, they shouldn't have done that. That they should have kept it down.
Yeah, I guess. But also, I think Cummings wants it standing
But did he ask for that?
I don't know if he asked for it or not. But I'm saying that's what he wants, because Herman has a pretty dangerous guard. We saw he almost got caught in an armbar. Cummings almost got caught in an armbar.
Sure.
Earlier in the round, so.
But that's not really how it works.
I know it's not how it works, but I'm saying it's not where it's like a guy who worked all around.
It's a happy accident.
Yeah, there you go.
It's
perfect.
A happy accident.
Little Bob Ross for you.
Yeah, exactly. It's happy little trees. But that's not what it's supposed to be doing. What if Zach Cummings in that moment said, I actually kind of want it down there. It's like, well, too darn bad. It was Dwayne Best, right? The referee was Dwayne Best here, I believe.
Yeah.
Stood it up. Kind of weird choice to do that, but okay. At least in the second round when they did it, they stood the fight back up. They had taken a point. That's fine. I'm okay with that. Reffing on the fly. These things happen. Fortunately, didn't make a difference. We had the winner was pretty much bound to win the whole fight. He got an official knockdown by UFC stats into each round before getting the finish, I guess included. But that was it for that fight. We can move on. We've got 2 more fights, 2 rounds in this one though. Daniel Zellhuber, who we mentioned earlier, young kid, 23 years old. I don't remember what his age was. I believe he's 23. He's young up and comer. I don't know if he's like a massive prospect, but I'm interested in him. I want to see what he can do. Got the win over Lando Venata, 30-27, 29-27, and 29-28. So 3 rounds. You've got 3 different scores. You've got at least 2 rounds here. So let's start with round 1, which again, just like the last fight, we're going to determine to what degree Daniel Zellhuber is beaten up on Lando Venata. Well,
early they exchanged some nice leg kicks, and it's pretty even. Maybe even a slight edge to Venata. Yeah, he had a couple good combos to the head. And then Zellhuber lands a big punch to the face. Stings Venata, really sets the round off for Zellhuber here. He swarms against the cage, landing punches, lands a huge knee right up the middle. Venata crumbles and covers up as Zellhuber just goes bananas for the next minute and a half.
Bananas on Venata?
Yeah. I didn't even think of that one.
Every time I hear Lando Venata's name, I think Lando Banana. I'm not joking. I don't know why.
It's a lot of punches landing on the hand that Venata's putting up, but a lot are getting through, and these are good shots, and it's for quite a long period of time that he's just getting swarmed here. I think we have damage for sure. I think we got a little bit of dominance here, and I think we definitely got duration. I like an 8, 10-8.
I like an 8 here. I think the damage is just so high, it's hard to ignore. I mean, when they get high damage rounds, it seems like it's a lot easier for judges to pull the trigger.
Mm-hmm.
Although in this case, it still was, because only one judge pulled the trigger. That judge being Sal D'Amato, the traveling judge of the group here. It was David Hoyet and Travis Besking who scored this as a 10-9 for Zellhuber. I'm with you. I'm with Judge D'Amato here. I think this is a much easier 8 to give out, to be perfectly honest, than the last one. Because the damage is much higher here. He's hurt in a way for a while,
Mm-hmm.
In a way that was almost like, I wonder if they'd stop this. Didn't quite get there, but you could tell. I believe this was Jason Herzog, correct?
I don't remember. Yeah, it was Jason Herzog.
Yeah, he was close to pulling the trigger. You could tell.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't pull the trigger, and I think it was the right call. but he was close, and I think justifiably so. So yeah, so I saw it the same way as again you and Judge D'Amato, and it feels like a lot of local judges maybe in different territories are sometimes less likely to pull than an 8 out there. I don't know anything about the Missouri Commission or the judges therein, especially to comment on this in particular with these individuals, but it is something we see more often. There's a lot of times where they'll go to, Texas or wherever, and the only 8 is going to be the traveling judge, the one with the more experience that can identify that kind of thing. It's not so much a problem when you go to, the UK or somewhere like that. They have a very strong understanding and a lot of practice in doing that in different variations or different regions of Europe as well. And then for whatever reason, Australia just love 8s, so they'll give them out all the time. But in other commissions in the United States, it seems like I don't know if they're told not to use the 8, but it seems like they're just less likely to do so. Maybe it's just less experience. I don't know. But for whatever reason, we ended up on the same page as Judge D'Amato. What does that mean for Judge D'Amato? He's also in the Midwest. Everything's going in like this the smack dab in the middle of the country, north of the bottom. Yep. So check the mail. Check the mail, Sal. Round 2. This one, we're actually talking about the winner of the round.
Yeah, close round. I think each guy has a case to be made here. Zellhuber landed strong, good to the body, some good kicks, and Vannata had some strong, clean lands upstairs. I think Vannata had more immediate impact, so I'm 10-9 Vannata. Close round.
I am too, yeah. We don't need to go deep into this one. I feel good about this one as well. Same as you. Same as Judges D'Amato and Hoyet. It was Judge Besking who gave this to Zellhuber. All right. It's okay. Yeah. Moving on. Last round of the UFC, anyway. And that was Gaston Bolaños, or Bolaños, I believe. I don't know. I'm butchering it, and I'm sorry, Gaston. But he got the win over Aaron Phillips. Unanimous decision, 2 30-27s, and a 29-28. We're only talking about a split in round 2. And I thought this was an interesting round.
Well, yeah. I mean, Phillips takes a real strange way of getting a takedown early. Almost getting his back taken. But he does end up on top. Nothing really happens, but it's a bunch of baloney because the ref, Nick Barons, is telling him to work 10 seconds after it hits the ground. Guy's in side control or half guard. Bolaños lands some elbows from bottom, like I don't know how to describe
You're pantomiming something.
Yeah.
We're audio only, sir.
They're elbows. On the feet, I think Bolaños is landing better. He does get taken down again to mount, and Barons says, hey, work here, while Phillips is in mount for maybe 10 seconds. It's kind of insane. Let them work. Let them get there. Like,
let's work.
10 seconds is absurd.
Yeah.
I think the words were either improve or strike. It's like, dude, we just got here. Relax. Even if I don't do anything, I'm in mount. Get out.
I can already picture Joe Rogan going nuts, sitting at home as he's watching this. Like, what are you doing? Let them do it.
You get stuck on the bottom. Tough. Figure a way to get out. It's on you. Anyway.
That's fair. That's fair.
He does get around to the back, locks in the body triangle, and he does attack an arm in rear naked, or like a head and arm choke from the back. I don't think it's close at all. Bolaños escapes, ends up getting on top. Phillips never threw any punches from this position, and Bolaños starts kicking his legs a bunch of times before it stood up. And then this is where it kind of turns here. He smashes Phillips in the face like 5 times with good shots, and you can tell Phillips is pretty hurt here, or at least affected from these. I think he takes the round 10-9 Bolaños.
I felt pretty good about Bolaños here, man. Like, what would you say? Is this a close round, a close but clear round, or a clear round?
It's close. I can see an argument for Phillips, but I mean that final end is what puts it over for me because he gets smashed in the face.
I feel like it's more like a close but clear round.
All right.
I'm not, I wouldn't even be as mad about it as I'm mad, but like, I don't disagree as strongly as I did with the Rodriguez and Robertson round earlier. But yeah, I feel like the winner of this round really ought to be Gaston Bolaños here.
Bolaños did more with his opportunities.
Yeah. But he's more effective with his offense. He's getting the fight closer to its conclusion. Mm-hmm. He's more effective. I feel like that's where you're supposed to reward here. So, I scored this one for Bolaños. So close but clear. Not crazy, but I sided with Judges Swanberg and Gary. It was Travis Besking once again who was split out on this one. So he gets a couch side override, but also one where I'm like, not so much. Take the wins where you get them, I guess, right? But I would say the Missouri judges, I think, fared okay.
Okay.
On the whole, I think they got beat to heck over that first fight, of course.
Yeah,
but like, I don't know. I don't think it was really as justified as it really should have been. The referees, a little.
Yeah.
Just let them work.
Mm-hmm.
Let them do their thing. And, maybe don't stand them up every single time. Don't give them a way out. Come on.
I got to also problem. There should not be. You shouldn't be allowed to get a stand up just because you hold the guy down. You should have to actively try to get up.
True.
You can't just throw your arms up and say, "Hey, he's not doing anything."
Yeah.
Stand me up.
I mean, you could try, but
you
it
should get a
work.
point taken for that.
No. You think so?
Yeah. You're not fighting. You're looking for help.
I don't know if it's necessarily in the rules for that, though.
Well, I'll add it to the rules.
Fair enough. Talk to the Rules and Regs Committee.
Yeah.
But that was it for UFC. We actually just have, again, the 2 rounds from PFL. We'll get into these. I don't know if you have to go too deep into these, do we? But, I mean, the first fight, at least, was actually kind of fun. The first fight that we're going to talk about. Zach Jusola got the win over Brandon Jenkins, 29-28 twice, and a 29-27. So we're talking about whether Jusola got an 8 or a 9 in round 1. So let's talk about it.
Yeah, this was a really fun round. It's clear Jusola is landing heavy and often, but Jenkins is returning fire, landing some of his own. It's an action-packed round. I think throughout the round, for most of the round, it's just a strong 10-9 until the final 15 seconds where Jusola hurts Jenkins bad, lands what seems to be like 10 punches and like 8 knees unanswered. Somehow Jenkins never goes down. But that final barrage pushed it over for me to 10-8.
Yeah, I'm with you too. I think that was a good assessment of that. But, you can understand why maybe just that last flurry isn't enough to kind of put it over the top. It was a good round up to that point, but yeah, it just kind of changed a little bit at the end. So it depends on your evaluation on the whole, I guess. Not crazy for judges Ron McCarthy and Rick Winter to give the 9, but you and I, sir, we saw this for the same way as Junichiro Kamijo. That's a 10-8 round for Jusola. What does that mean, though, for Judge Kamijo?
Couch that over.
This was going further west. I'm pretty sure he's in Nevada. He's a local Nevada judge.
Local Nevada.
He does travel a little bit, but he's mostly in Nevada. And then the last round we had, this round kind of stunk. It was
complete opposite.
It's total opposite. Raush Manfio gets the win over Alexander Martinez, who used to be on the right side of all these close decisions. This was not close. It was 29-28 twice and a 30-27. And round 1's our only split round here. So what's happening?
Yeah, like you said, super boring round. Not a single strike is thrown for a full minute.
I like that they almost lapped the cage twice before any action was taken.
Kept circling.
That was actually amazing.
Kept circling. Martinez landed some good leg kicks. Manfio landed good body kick early. His combos upstairs were pretty decent. I'm not seeing an immediate impact on the calf kicks from Martinez. Manfio continues to return fire when he's hit with these and press forward. Martinez is kind of covering up and resetting when Manfio's throwing at him and hitting him. Not all that much offense to score in this round, but I think Manfio was the one that was more effective. No issue going with Martinez if you saw more effect on these leg kicks.
Yeah, this round's boring. I just can't stress it enough. But what I thought was impressive too is that Martinez doesn't land a single punch on the statistics.
I don't think he threw a punch.
Yeah, I don't know if he actually. I think he might have technically thrown a couple, but he only landed by the PFL stats that were accruing at the bottom. He only landed kicks.
It was like a video game where you pass this level, but you can't throw a punch, or you can't land a punch. You can only land with kicks.
Yeah, no, I could see that. But I don't think he actually won that round. I think Manfio did enough with the hands. I am not married to that because there's just not enough happening in this round. But I think Manfio's hands and kicks too get the job done in this round over the work from Martinez. I don't know what it is. Martinez seems to get people on his side with these rounds that are close. I have no idea if it's just an us thing or them thing. I don't know. But yeah, we ended up seeing it from Manfio, who was the outscore actually from Junichiro Kamijo. Mike Bell and Ron McCarthy, once again, were in the majority, saw this from Martinez. But since we had it the same way as Judge Kamijo, what does that mean for him?
Couch side override. Sending more.
Saving on postage.
This should be our most overrides in a single episode.
We have
five
overrides in 9 rounds that were actually contested rounds.
Mm-hmm.
We don't count, again, the first round was a unanimous.
Because we didn't need it. We didn't
override it.
We didn't want to gloat.
Yeah.
So
what do the things that we send in the mail look like? Should we describe them to everybody? Or maybe they're not ready. They're probably not ready to hear it.
They're not ready to hear it.
Unless you've already earned one and gotten it in the mail, like you're probably not ready to hear what it's like. It's too magnificent to be perfectly honest.
Feel free to post a picture of your couch side overrides.
Honestly, I just want to know that one of these is getting through the mail. I'm starting to get really mad at the U.S. Postal Service. But that is it for our contested rounds. Bunch of finishes, 7 at the UFC. 5 by TKO, 2 by sub, as we're starting to get back to the TKOs and KOs are getting more prevalent than the subs. 3 of these fights ended in the first round over at PFL. We had 5 finishes, 5 again by TKO or KO. No subs. Nobody in PFL likes to do submissions, or they don't like to sign people who do submissions. I don't know. 4 of these fights ended in the first round. Overall, plenty of exciting stuff happened over these 2 events, and they were far from the only things happening over the weekend. But of those 12, what's your favorite finish?
Brandon Royval. Knee to jab to swarm over Mateus Nicolau.
I always knew you were going to pick Brandon Royval.
That was amazing.
Yeah. I'll point out the one that was my favorite that you put down for me. Just by assigning it to me or guessing or what have you, but it was Edson Barboza changing. I'll quote you. This is what you wrote down. Edson Barboza changing Billy Q to Billy Z.
He went to sleep.
Yeah, he put him to sleep with that knee. That was pretty devastating knee. I liked that one, but I also really did like the armbar from Jillian Robertson.
Okay,
that was a good armbar.
Wow.
I don't think you take away points just because of the weird finish. I think she earned a really good submission there.
Didn't expect that.
But no. I mean, my primary one, I just wanted to give it a little shout.
Oh, okay.
I think she deserved not to have that taken away from her, you know?
Yeah.
That's what I would say. And I'm super impressed with her in general. I would be fascinated to see how far she can get at 115. I didn't know that she was going to be able to get down there. Actually, I didn't even realize this was a lightweight or a strawweight fight when we were talking about it last week. I just missed that. So, yeah, good for her. I'd like to see how that goes. But that's it for last weekend. We got to look forward to this weekend where there's just fights and fights and fights and fights, especially Saturday. But Friday is the kickoff of the 2-night Hawaii special. Bellator tends to do this because apparently it's not that hard to get into Hawaii or get the job done like Dana White makes it sound for the UFC.
Hopefully the cameramen know to stay out of Sal's way.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. You can't get in the way of Sal D'Amato in Hawaii. Look for the people who are wearing the Hawaiian shirts and stay out of their way.
The refs should be wearing Hawaiian shirts too.
No.
I think they should be.
Too colorful.
They should be.
Nope. You'll get nothing but pushback from me.
No.
All right, I made my case. But anyway, Bellator is up on Friday night, 10 p.m. Eastern time main card. That's like a 4 o'clock in the afternoon over in Hawaii time or something like that. I think it's 6 hours. But the main headline here is Liz Carmouche defending her title, technically for the second time, but it's really the first time that she's kind of getting past the whole saga of Juliana Velasquez. She's defending against Deanna Bennett, longtime veteran of, Invicta especially. She's been with Bellator for a little while. She was on Tough as well. She's getting her shot here. I think it's an interesting fight. I don't know if you care about this one or not, but I actually think it's a solid flyweight fight. I think it's a solid flyweight fight. For the title, of course, if I didn't make that clear enough. The other fight on this one that I think you had actually been in.
I didn't realize it was a 2-nighter.
Yeah. It's two nights. Danny Sabatello is back in action against Marcos Moreno at 135. I'm interested to see how Danny Sabatello does, but man, he's not always the most interesting to watch. He's more of an interesting personality.
That's why I want to watch.
And he's also talented. It's just not.
I want to see
it's in the wrestling department and almost nothing else.
Instead of wrestles,
he can do the wrestling. He's just got to mix in
fight
fights.
after you get wrestled.
Yeah,
you get to take that and then fight.
What if he mixed his martial arts? What would happen?
He'd probably do a lot better than he did last time he fought.
In what they call chop suey of fighting.
He's probably fighting Patchy Mix if he threw some strikes.
Might be.
So,
but he's not, because Patchy Mix is fighting Raufeon Stotts.
The next night, which also starts at 10 p.m. Eastern time. This is Bellator 294 and 295 respectively. But Raufeon Stotts against Patchy Mix is not only an interim title fight at 135 pounds, it is the Grand Prix final. $1
million up for grabs. And the winner of this goes on to the, I guess what you probably could call the Bellator Bantamweight final, because there's already another title fight being booked with the actual champion or the primary champion, what have you, Sergio Pettis returning from injury, going against Patricio Pitbull.
Double final.
It's weird. I mean, there's no $1 million up for grabs in the other one.
Yeah, because when I saw Sergio, he said, "Yeah, I should be fighting them in the spring."
It would make sense.
Actually, he actually said summer.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think this kind of came along, and it was kind of a surprising thing. And I actually interviewed Patchy Mix last week. That'll be coming out for New York Post later this week. But I asked Patchy, and I said, what do you think of this fight? Like, obviously, you guys are going for the title here. What do you think of that one? And he's like, probably if it was anybody else, I'd be kind of pissed off. But I think his thinking was he has just so much respect for Patricio Pitbull. And it's not just a deference kind of thing. It's not like it's just because he, has a lot of respect for him. It's also what happens is if he wins, let's say Patchy Mix becomes the champion of this, right? He wins the tournament. He gets the interim belt. He'll face the winner. He either gets to fight someone who he views as one of the greats of Bellator ever, and realistically one of the best lighter weight fighters of the last 15 years, too, in Patricio Pitbull, or he could fight the guy who beat Patricio Pitbull.
Okay.
And there's prestige there. So either way, he kind of views it as something that can give him some rub.
Okay.
If he takes care of business. So, yeah, he didn't seem to be too bothered by it. And I think this is like the only scenario that wouldn't have bothered him.
Yeah, probably. Well, he's still in the fight for $1 million, so.
Well, there's also that. He's looking forward to that. He wants to buy his family a house, take care of his family. Good on him. This being in Hawaii, of course, we will probably have a couple local judges, but they last year, like they did, brought in, like you said, Sal D'Amato. They'll bring in some other traveling judges as well. I'm sure it'll be a well-staffed event or pair of events, as we tend to see from Bellator. With Mike Mazzulli from ABC and overseeing the Mohegan Commission, often works with Bellator. I'm sure he's at least lending some expertise here. So not worried about the judging. There are some other good fights on this one, though. The Saturday night card, Kyoji Horiguchi back in action against Ray Borg at flyweight, which Bellator doesn't do. This is like, I don't know if this is the first Bellator flyweight fight for men, but it's one of the very few. So I don't know what this is. I don't know if it's a one-off or if it's something that they're going to maybe try to kickstart. But I mean, it's a good fight at 125. Horiguchi and Borg, I mean, these were upper tier guys. They both fought Mighty Mouse Johnson for the championship at times in the UFC. Both of them ended up losing in kind of spectacular submission fashion, but I especially Horiguchi, I think extremely highly of. I wonder if Ray Borg is going to hit the weight. He's had a lot of weight issues in the past, and he's been fighting at 35. This is back down to 125. He's got a snake bit. I'll root for him just in the sense of you hate to see some bad things happen to a guy who's had a lot of bad things happen to him in recent years, but either way, I like this fight.
Yeah, this one's interesting.
What else you like?
I like Yancy Medeiros a lot, so that should be
fighting in his home.
I like the way he
state,
fights, yeah,
Hawaii.
Plus, he's kind of like honorary 209. So
he's fighting against Charlie Leary. That's 155 pounds. Kai Kamaka III, another Hawaiian fighting at home. I'm always interested when he fights. He's fighting Adley Edwards at 145, and man, this guy, you just keep waiting for him to really turn the corner and hasn't quite gotten there yet. Aaron Pico, he's fighting back down at 145 against Otto Rodriguez as well. I'm interested.
All right.
That's the Bellator business, but there is UFC on Saturday night, which takes place, largely before the Strikeforce fights. Or Bellator fights.
Yeah.
There's a 40th slip. Man, I miss Strike. There were so few Strikeforce events. Do you realize that there were only like 40 Strikeforce events?
I remember Strikeforce having a feel to it.
They had a feel, man.
And I know Showtime's trying to recreate that with Bellator. I just haven't got it yet.
I haven't got it, but I actually like a lot of the things Bellator's been doing in the last year or so. I think there's significant effort to kind of address some of the things that they've received criticism for very publicly.
Just promote your cards.
I think I would push back on you. I think they're actually trying. I think they really are right now.
I haven't seen it.
I have. As someone who is in the media and I work with these people, I'm hearing from them a lot more often. I think they're trying distinctly to get all of their cards to be promoted when they possibly can. So I'll give them the credit there. I think they're taking the steps. Maybe you're not seeing it, but they are.
Okay.
But anyway, we're on UFC here. We're past Bellator and not Strikeforce. Sergey Pavlovich is the headliner against Curtis Blades at heavyweight. You know how I feel about heavyweights, but this is a good one. This is a good heavyweight fight, especially if it ends quickly, which, they all should. But Sergey Pavlovich, you're kind of wondering, like, is he going to get the job done in the first 65 seconds or so, like he tends to?
Scary.
There's almost like a Shane Carwin feel to him.
You think he's gonna have that bad of a gas tank?
That would be cruel. No, but there's this kind of this like car crash element to like when he comes in there, like, and it's not because he's wild or something like that, but man, if he throws, like, you just kind of hold your breath, like, is this be the one?
It's very violent.
Very, very violent, man. He's going against Curtis Blades, so he's going to have to pass the wrestling test if Blades decides to go that way. He's been improving a lot with his hands, too, and flexing power, so I'm interested in this fight. I like this fight. It's a good heavyweight fight. This one's back in it's again UFC Vegas 72 we're at.
Mm-hmm.
I believe it is at the Apex.
Yeah, it is.
So yeah, we're back there.
It's 71.
71?
Yeah.
Ever. There's too many. Shouldn't be counted anyway. UFC 277 is one thing. Like, give me the numbered events, fine. But once we have to get to there's 72 Vegas fights, stop it. Anyway.
72 Vegas fights at the Apex.
71, I should say.
71.
Yeah.
There was a UFC Las Vegas that was not at the Apex.
Yes, because Las Vegas is different from Vegas.
Mm-hmm.
Very different places.
Mm-hmm.
Totally different. Just ask a geographer. I like a couple more of these fights actually, though, on the undercard. I like Song Yadong, who doesn't, against Ricky Simone, who doesn't. That's a good fun 135-pound fight.
Mm-hmm.
There's a billion of those. The 135-pound fights are always good.
Mm-hmm.
I like that one a lot. I like Bobby Green against Jared Gordon. This is Gordon coming back from that fight, which, again, you and I thought was a very close fight. Could have gone either way. A lot of people feel very convinced that he should have beaten Paddy Pimblett. We'll see how he responds to that against Bobby Green, real veteran here. You got to think that Gordon's going to want this down, though.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. We'll see if he can get it done. Bobby Green, man, he's still going.
It's wild.
He fought on like an Affliction card. Wow. Yeah. Talking about Strikeforce. We got Affliction. What else we got? Cage Rage will get in here. Let's just shout everything out.
Jim Miller was on IFL. We just had that 6 sub from Dan Miller. Recently resurfaced.
You say like, oh, we just had it. Like, you mean 15 years ago?
Yeah, when he made the guy hear his own heartbeat.
Yes, it did.
That was
one. Caposa brought. No, someone else shared that, and he was talking about it.
Yeah,
that was it. But anyway, that was mostly what I was looking forward to. You anything else you like?
Muhammad Usman.
Okay.
Versus Junior Tafa, glory kickboxer. Justin Tafa's brother.
I'm interested in it so much as
kind of annoying.
Yeah, I'm interested in it so much as like, let's see what
I want to see what
Muhammad
Usman
can do when he follows it up, because he is. I interviewed him when he was at PFL a couple years ago, and he you would think he's got the tools. He was kind of NFL-ish caliber. I think he was trying to latch on before he found fighting, of course, in the NFL. So a real standout athlete. But yeah, let's see. Hopefully get it done in under 5 minutes, one of you.
Please,
and thank you.
All right, that does it. We'll be back again next Monday, break down all these fights. It's a big weekend.
Super big weekend, but then after that, it starts to calm down a little bit more, and that'll be nice.
Thank you.
Yes, please, mercy.
Yeah. Thanks for listening, everyone.
Have a great week.